Hello, I am Celine Williams, real estate broker in Washington State, ready to help you buy, sell, and invest in real estate.
And I am Jeff with NFM Lending. I've been doing this for 30 years and love helping people build wealth through real estate. Thanks for joining us today.
So, we really want to work with you. We want to help you get into your first home, your next home, your forever home. So, if you're looking to relocate to Washington or if you're looking to buy a home in Washington State, please feel free to reach out to me at my phone number, which should be on the screen somewhere here. And then you can also book a consultation with me directly on my Calendly, which you'll be able to find in the description. And then, Jeff, how can people get a hold of you besides me sending them to you?
Oh, I like that. Well, I'd rather you just send them to me. That makes my life so much easier. But no, same thing right down below. I got my Calendly link and my contact information. Feel free to reach out and we can do a free consult, kind of go over any questions or concerns you have and get you right into the process. And I'm excited. It's a great opportunity right now. I feel strongly about that and hope you jump in and use us for your needs.
Absolutely. We're so excited to have another Finance Friday and give buyers and sellers like you a little bit more confidence in the entire process.
Yes.
We are here for you. So, good question that we were asked recently. How do I make a strong offer in this market? So, when you're working with other agents, how do you kind of guide your agents and your buyer to make a strong offer, Jeff?
I think it's a team project. I think that's the first thing that I always talk to people about when, I try to have conversations with listing agents after we close and I ask them, hey, why did you accept our offer? What changed our offer? What made our offer best? And obviously sometimes it's like, well, you had the highest price. Like, oh, wow, okay, great. That was really special. Sometimes you just got to pay enough and you get the offer accepted. But I came up with a list of the top three things that I run into and what I've heard from over and over from listing agents on why they accepted an offer. And the first one is almost always working with a professional agent that communicates really well. So I feel that's really big. Then two is earnest money is a really important thing. Having a good chunk of earnest money in there really shows the interest from the client or the buyer. And then lastly, having a great lender, like, because they need to make sure the deal's going to close. It's irrelevant if they accept our offer if they don't have the confidence that the loan's going to close and that they can close out on the transaction. So I think those are the big things that I would be looking at. When you and I work together, we work together so closely about getting the numbers for the property of the client, making sure the client knows the cash to close, what their payment's going to be, what are the current interest rates, and then using those numbers to be like, okay, here's some options. How do you want to structure the offer? Do we need closing costs and things like that? So I feel like between you and I, we work a lot right before an offer and then you have me call the listing agent after you present the offer. And I think your communication up front is what helps a lot of our clients win. Can you go into that? What do you do there?
No, absolutely. I like to build rapport. Like, once, first of all, to make a strong offer, you need to be pre approved, right? So, you need to know your numbers. We need to have our pre approval ready. So then Jeff can do his job and say, hey, this client is solid and we can definitely close on this loan. The second thing, though, is also talking to the listing agent, finding out the seller's motivation and seeing how we can have a win win situation. And so if we don't have to overpay, I'm not going to overpay, right? Just like you were saying, sometimes it is price. But guess what? If you overpay but don't have any money towards the additional down payment, if there's a gap in appraisal, your high offer doesn't matter. If you are planning on doing an inspection and being super nitpicky, that's not going to make you better, right? So it's really looking at all the contingencies that are already in place and figuring out how we can structure ours to be the most competitive. And so right now, this market is so strange, right? I'm seeing homes that are on the market getting sold in 4 days, and I'm seeing homes staying on the market for 99 days. So it really just depends on pricing, presentation, and promotion on that agent. Anyway, to make a strong offer, I'm talking to the listing agent. And just like you said, showing that I am communicative and I am a delight to work with. So,
I love that. That was good. I thought a key part of that too was finding out what the seller wants. Can you go into that a
exactly.
little bit too?
Yeah.
'Cause I
So,
feel
so
like
I mean, Is
Yeah.
it like, is there a dollar amount that they're hoping for, right? Because just because a home is listed at 500,000, what is the seller's real expectation? Are they okay if they just get a list price, or would 510 sweeten the deal? What if we were to ask for closing costs? If a home is on the market for a little bit longer, if it's longer than average days on market, for instance, in Marysville, it's about 29 days. So if a home is on the market for 29 days and it still hasn't gotten any offers or had a price reduction, then I'm going to think that we're probably going to have some room for negotiation. So finding out, if we got to list price and maybe ask for a little bit of closing costs, would that be okay? What if we do a pass or fail inspection, which really we all know it doesn't really matter because we can come back. But for the most part, I try to honor my word and make it pass or fail, right? Where we're not going to be negotiating nitpicky things. We'll probably just call out like major issues. If the crawl space needs to be redone, we got to take care of that. If the roof needs to be done, we're going to probably ask for that in a negotiation. But it's really just finding out their motivation and how we can cater to them without bending over backwards.
Yeah, and even the closing time too. Like, oh, we need to close by the in 21 days or in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
something like that. I mean, if you don't ask those questions, you're not gonna know. And then you're gonna present a 30 or a 45-day offer closing and be like, the seller's gonna be like, well, doesn't work for us. I mean, yes, and they could counter. The problem is what if someone else comes in that has a communicative, okay, that word's way too big for me. Communicative.
And you can
Yes.
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Oh my God, you knocked that out of the park. So if you're competing against, a couple of their offers and the
Yeah.
other agents being really aggressive on communicating and establishing rapport like you're talking about, and they find out, oh, a quick close is going to work. They really need to close by the end of the month, even though, it's March 14th, Friday, and they need to close by the end of the month. That's only a 2-week close. But if that's important to them, maybe we can make a full price offer, ask for closing costs, and get the deal because we can go a short close that we can close on time. So, I
Yep.
mean, I
Or
feel like that
even
communication is huge.
100%, or even like a rent back situation, right? So say maybe they need to sell the house and rent the house for just a couple of days so they can get out of there and also have the money to pay. I mean, we do same day closings all the time, but sometimes people need like a grace period to get out of there. So there are so many things to negotiate on. So I'm going to try to craft an offer that's going to be mutually beneficial for the buyer and the seller.
Yeah. And I
So,
think, the communication's key also with me. I mean, there's so many times where I find out there was an offer made and I'm like, why wasn't I in the loop? And I find out that they
mhm.
just emailed the offer in, late last night and we found out we didn't get it. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, I couldn't believe I wasn't included in that conversation because financing is such a huge part of an offer too. I get the comment consistently from listing agents like, oh my God, thanks so much for calling. I was planning on calling you, or I call and vet my lenders, and I appreciate you reaching out. I mean, again, that higher level of communication is going to put us up the notch. The listing agent is our liaison to that seller. So we've got to impress him or her as much as we can, get them to like us and know that we're going to perform at a super high level because she's going to push us. She's going to push us in front of the seller. Yeah, she's going to present the numbers. Yeah, the highest offer is not always the offer they go with. They want to work with professionals. And if they're working with somebody that just emailed an offer in, even though it's a high offer and they got crappy earnest money and there's no communication, they couldn't get a hold of the lender in the pre-approval letter,
Ooh,
they'll be
that's
like,
bad.
ah, that's a sketch offer. Although they're offering us more money, I'd feel more comfortable going with this one because I feel confident they're going to close. And what, like you said earlier, someone comes in with a really highball offer with no communication. The other thought is, what if the appraisal comes in low? How are you going to make up the difference? We're going to, who that offer is not worth the paper it's on if the appraisal comes in low and they
Yeah.
decide to walk.
Yep, absolutely. And so by us just putting some money towards a gap, if a gap does happen, it also makes you very, very strong because it means that you have confidence that you want to move forward, right? So for instance, it's not happening very much right now because the market isn't as competitive, but say we had the home list price was 500,000, we offered 550, and so contract price is 550,000, but the appraisal comes in at 525, right? So that's a $25,000 gap. If we've already agreed to put money towards that gap. It can be the full 25,000 or it could be 5,000. That still makes it more competitive than anybody else. So these are just little ways that you can help. Or say you need cover or closing costs covered, but the seller feels like, no, I absolutely can't take less than list price because of the fact that I need it for my net proceeds. Then one thing you can do is you can ask for $10,000 over asking price and then ask for the closing costs to get covered completely. So long as it appraises, we should be fine. But it's just how you can use the appraisal to your benefit, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And then again,
yep.
if you get a bad listing agent and they don't care about the appraisal and you're offering over and you get accepted and the value comes in low, now you get to negotiate for a lower price and it could potentially work to your advantage that way.
Yeah, 100%. I actually had a new construction come in almost 20,000 less, and I've never seen that. And when I told the agents in my office, they were shocked. Shocked. Nobody's ever
I'm
experienced
shocked.
that
I
because
didn't know
usually by
that.
the time those new constructions are get COO, the certificate of occupancy,
Uh-huh.
the price has already gone up. But it was $20,000 less. So they
Wow.
had to come down in price, and my buyers had to come out less in pocket. So it was like, woohoo, win-win situation.
No kidding. That's brilliant. I had
Well,
no
win
idea
for
that
us,
was gonna
not for
happen.
them.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's a way that we can make a strong offer. So really work with a good team, work with a team who has been through a lot of those situations too. So when you're interviewing people, be sure you're asking questions like, what do you do in a hard situation? What is one of the hardest deals you've ever gone through? How many years experience? How many homes have you sold? It's important. This is a huge asset that you're buying so you can build wealth for the future. So work with a team who's very on top of it and communicative and super fun.
Well, let's move on to the earnest money too, because again, I think that is a really powerful tool to kind of show the seller that you're being really serious. I mean, what's typical earnest money and what do you normally recommend? How does that work for you?
Yeah, so typically I tell my buyers to do about 2%, and keep in mind that that 2% does go towards your closing costs. So you're not having to pay both earnest money and closing costs. So say your closing costs is $15,000, you're going to put maybe 7,500-ish, maybe even less, 6,000 towards it, right? That money, the rest you'll pay at closing costs is that difference between 6,000 and 15,000. So and then it looks stronger. It looks even stronger if you release earnest money. I don't usually recommend it. What does that mean? That means you make it non-refundable. That means that you just throw it in the wind and hope that everything works out. People were doing that in times of super competition, but I've never done it, and I've never, thank God. Thank God I've never had to do it. And it makes me nervous. It makes me nervous because I don't want to have any clients lose thousands of dollars.
Yeah, no kidding. And I mean, for you guys out there that are watching this, earnest money is like that initial deposit on the house to hold the house. So when you put a larger chunk up front and in front of the seller, it just shows you that you're really interested in the property. One, two, I think it shows you have financial prowess. Like 2%, like on a, $500,000 house, 2% is 10 grand. I mean, to make an even stronger impression, if you're putting 20% down, why not put 20 grand or 30 grand in earnest money to make a stronger offer? That's my opinion, that I would try to put even more out front. You need the money anyways, like Celine was leading to, is that earnest money is just a credit to you at closing. So if you owe $50,000 more at closing, your earnest money was 20, now you only owe 30,000 left over that you need to still come up with. So at the end of the day, you're going to have to come up with that money anyways. You might as well put it in. And as long as we keep it protected through the contingencies in the contract, like appraisal, financing, inspection, you know, you basically, it's really hard to lose that money unless you do something silly. Do you
Yeah.
have any clients that have done something silly and lost earnest money? There you go.
Nope. I've
Big
worked
part of
with
that is
over
working with people that know what the silly things are and make sure to let you know what they are so you don't lose your earnest money
oh
either.
my gosh, that's like my biggest nightmare to have a client lose their earnest money. So yeah, I have not experienced that yet. I've helped over 120 buyers and sellers and have never had that situation. And I don't plan to start now.
Yeah, the keys are, guys, is don't quit your job, don't change
Yes.
job, don't take
Yep.
change the way you get paid, like go from a salaried employee to a commission only employee. Don't make large cash deposits because we have to track where the money's coming from. And if it's mattress money, as we call it, like money that just is sitting in cash somewhere, maybe you dug a hole in the backyard and you decided you're going to buy a house, that money is hard to filter into the process because we need to track where it's going and we need to make sure that it's not, not drug money or something crazy like that. So,
Right.
little things like that can really screw up the process. You got to make sure that you're working with both a realtor and a lender that know these things, explain these things to you, and stay on top of them to make sure that those mistakes aren't made so that we get into contract and find out that we can't get our way out of it because, we made a mistake from quitting jobs or moving
Yep.
money around, and or, opening new pieces of credit. A lot of people
Mm,
get into the
mhm,
process of buying a house and all of a sudden they
mhm,
want to buy furniture and they want to buy
mm-mm.
this and they want to buy that.
Wait.
And all of a sudden we find out we track your credit all the way to closing. We actually have alerts that come up and say, oh, there's a new inquiry on your credit. Oh, there's a new account that just showed up. And we know all your payments too. Like there's a new tracking thing for credit for mortgage companies that we track this stuff all the way up to the day of closing. And we verify your current employment within a few days of closing as well. So if you quit your job 3 weeks in, there's a good chance we're going to call your employer and say, hey, is John Doe working there still? And they say, no, the deal's dead.
Yeah.
If you
Done. I
have a
mean,
great
unfortunately,
car
we've
loan or
had that.
something, yeah, I mean,
We had a
car
client
loan or
lose their
whatever.
job 2 days before
Oh,
closing.
that's right. We
Two
did.
days
You're right.
before
Oh my gosh.
closing. And they had to give it up. And you know what? 2 days before closing, still got our earnest money back.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
that
but
wasn't their fault, thank goodness. But I mean,
no,
I have had, I would say 3 or 4 clients that I can think of over the last 30 years of doing it. That one guy
that did
switched
silly
from
things.
a base salary to 100% commission. We couldn't use his income.
Yeah.
He ended up, can't remember if he lost his earnest money or not. It wasn't that much either way. This was like 20 years ago. But I've had a couple of people switch jobs and, a couple of them we were able to save because you can
Yeah.
use different jobs. It's like, but communicate with us, let us know what you're doing
Right.
and keep us in the loop so that we can make sure that it's not going to screw up your goals, for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Just keep us in the loop of everything. Like while you are making a major life purchase, keep your team in the loop, right?
Yes.
That's all we ask. So that
That's
you
all
can
we
get those
ask.
keys.
We're simple people.
It's a little easier when you're just selling your house, right? Then it's just kind of like, okay, we'll sell it, right? But when it's buying, like people are tracking you. That's why people try to have great credit scores so they can buy a house.
Yes. No, totally.
So, yes, come work with us. We'd be happy to take you. We work with everyone, first time home buyers, veteran buyers, next stage, move up. We do bridge loans, physician loans, all the loans. We're here to help you. Whoop, whoop.
Awesome. Awesome call. If anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the comments below and we'll plan on our next Finance Friday. We'll address any questions you guys have out there. So
Yep.
thanks for
Sounds good.
watching.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Thanks for watching,
Bye.
guys. Bye.
Bye.